Today is August 5th, 2020. My name is Anthony Villanueva. I am interviewing Mr. Rod Moyer for the Latino Oral History Project, Voces Pandemic Project at the Center for Latino and Latin American Studies at Northern Illinois University. This project is in partnership with Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Mr. Moyer, that this interview will be placed in the Northern Illinois University libraries and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something that you want to talk about, please bring it up and we shall talk about it. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record your consent. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please answer yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each sentence. The Center for Latino and Latin American Studies wishes to archive your interview along with any other photographs or documents at the Northern Illinois University libraries. Northern Illinois University libraries will retain copyrights of the interview and any other materials you donate to the Center for Latino and Latin American Studies at Northern Illinois University. Do you give the Center for Latino and Latin American Studies consent to archive your interview and your materials at the Northern Illinois University libraries?
I agree, I do.
Okay. Do you grant Northern Illinois University libraries the rights, title, and interest in copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
I do. I agree.
Do you agree to allow Northern Illinois University libraries to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
I agree. I do.
Do you grant the Center for Latino and Latin American Studies consent to share your interview and your materials with Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion in the Voces of a Pandemic Oral History mini project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Is that Kevin Durant, University of Texas at Austin?
I'm not sure. The University of Texas at Austin?
Because Kevin Durant went to University of Texas. I don't know if it's a different, I don't know if Austin is the one.
Kevin Durant. Oh, yo, Kevin Durant.
But in any event, shout out KD, and I do. I agree.
Okay. We have many questions that were answered in the pre-interview form. We use that information from the pre-interview form to help in research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before Voces sends it to the Benson Library and to NIU Library, we would have stripped out any contact information for yourself or your family members, so that that will not be part of the public file. Your public file will only be accessible at the Benson Library and NIU libraries. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview in your public file available to researchers at Benson?
I agree, I do.
On occasion, the Center for Latino and Latin American Studies and Voces receives requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We will only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone number or your email with journalists?
Well, since we're being recorded, I mean, I've got to say, I think that, the definition of legitimate news outlet, one can say, what does that mean? Because as we've evolved, I believe that, even individuals and, our First Amendment with freedom of the press, I think there's legitimacy to all news outlets, but I digress. I agree. I do.
Okay. So I want you to start off this interview. Mr. Moyer, would you just tell me a little bit about your upbringing and your history in terms of family and education?
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I came into this world via rape. And I remember hearing about that. And the question that I felt was, like, well, obviously rape isn't a good thing. But I said, well, do I wish that I wasn't here though? Do I wish that I wasn't here? Because if I don't wish that I wasn't here, that means I am happy with or agree that this rape happened, right? So that's nothing I processed, but that was those are my thoughts um, upon finding my birth mother when I was around 30 years old, and so I came from Kankakee, Illinois. Hey, nah, I'm doing something. Come over here. Come over here, baby. Yeah, you can, baby. You can. Yes, baby. That's my beautiful baby. So, so Victoria Martinez, around July of 1978, was raped. Victoria is Puerto Rican. The man that raped her would be my father. I have no idea who he is. I know he's African American, black. And I was born on April 29th, 1978. And I was taken from my mother because she was schizophrenic and found to be not fit to have a child. And I was put in the foster care system in Kankakee, Illinois. And I lived with a lady named Miss Clausen on the outskirts of Kankakee, Illinois. And I lived there with her and her son. She had a foster home for 10 months. And I was where I was adopted by my beautiful late mother, Judy, a white woman who grew up in Plymouth, Vermont, who had moved to the Midwest. She was a teacher, and she wanted to teach in segregated classrooms. She wanted to teach all students because back in Vermont, where she grew up, at the time the classrooms were still segregated. So that's how she found her way, a white woman from Vermont, to Hopkins Park, Illinois, and wanted to adopt a child, and adopted me. I was adopted on Valentine's Day before my first birthday, which was February 14th, 1979. So I was 10 months old when I was adopted by my beautiful mother, Judy, and I was raised by my beautiful mother, Judy, in Kankakee, Illinois. She raised me as a single mother. She was not married, never had a father, and I spent my childhood and high school years growing up in Kankakee, Illinois, with my beautiful mother, Judy.
And how did you aspire to, or when did you aspire to go on to higher education after high school?
Well, the answer to that question is in the question. After high school. So during high school, I was not really engaged. Um, I played sports. I played basketball. I ran cross country. I was allowed to play without qualifying academically because I was not engaged in the academics. And my senior year, I got kicked out of high school for breaking into the principal's office to steal back my pager that was confiscated earlier that day. So I was kicked out maybe about a month before graduation. And that summer, I went to summer school, and I was dismissed from summer school for missing too many days. So that means I didn't graduate in the summer either. So that fall, I went to an alternative school. And the work that we were doing in there, no exaggeration, was like 5 + 4, 1 + 1 = 2. Part of the reason I wasn't engaged, that's an example of part of the reason. But I went there for about 2 months, and I finished and got my diploma. So I was walking out. It was October of 1996. I was supposed to graduate in the spring of 96, but I ended up, again, going to the alternative school. So I graduated in October. And I was walking out of this alternative school in Kankakee, Illinois. And I said, well, I want to make a lot of money. I said, well, if I want to make a lot of money, I got to get a job or something that's going to pay me a lot of money. If I want to get that job that's going to pay me a lot of money, I'm going to have to go to school. So I'm going to go to school. That was actually a specific conversation that I had with myself. Before that, I never thought about school. I was actually told that, I wasn't good enough to go to school. School wouldn't be a good fit for me. The only thing I did with school was going to the counselor's office to watch quote unquote college videos. But I really just did that to get out of class, and I went in there and did other stuff. That was the extent of my college activity up to that point, which is, pretty much none. But that was the conversation that I had. I finished high school, by the way, with a 1.2 GPA. And when I walked out on that day in October, I was getting ready to go to work. I was a cook and a trainer at the local Cracker Barrel. And just walking out, I had that conversation with myself, and then I got in my car and I went to work. But that's how and when I decided that higher education was for me.
That's good. And let's switching directions now. When did you first become aware of COVID-19?
Maybe around December or January of 2019, 2020, just hearing about this, this disease that was growing in China. And, you hear about things, here in Chicago, every storm is going to be the worst storm ever in the world. It's going to be the worst wind you've ever seen. And, so we're used to, and we see, problems, issues. We've seen the tsunamis. I think I'm mispronouncing that, but we've seen catastrophic,
Events. Yeah.
events, and you hear about them. They come. They haven't. Maybe I haven't seen them happen here. Obviously 9/11 that happened in New York. With the George Floyd incident and the national riots and the protesting. I mean that certainly is an incident, but just from hearing them, the news and the regular talk that there was something happening that could be a problem. That was the first time I heard of COVID-19.
Initially, did you think it was going to be a serious event?
I don't know. Well, listen, I mean, I think that I'm open for all possibilities. So I don't think that I made any determinations. I knew that it could be from nothing to the biggest and worst event in the history of the world. And I'm open-minded to all of those possibilities to maintain a maximum readiness to be proactive, to make the right decisions, regardless of what it is. And so hearing about something from some person or one person, doesn't for me determine, what something is. Not a health expert, so certainly, my knowledge is going to be relying upon other people, be it health experts that I know, or just the experts or the rhetoric from people that communicate in the media. So I was open-minded to all possibilities.
At what stage did you consider it to be a health threat to you or your family or neighbors?
Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, center for the Utah Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing around in interviews, because again, they were talking about COVID, but touching the microphone and just playing, And then the next day, the NBA season shut down. And to me, that's an example of something that I pay attention and I listen to, and I said, okay, this is a sign, an example that this is real, and this is an issue. So I would say right then and there, when the NBA went from canceling their game one day and then canceling the season, I said, okay, this is real. This is now. This is here. It was that moment.
And did you think after the realization that this could be a serious health hazard,
Absolutely. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Did you think that it could come into your home, affect your children?
Well, absolutely. I don't know how you could think that it couldn't, because that's what it is. It's an invisible disease that is on surfaces that, it can be transmitted through the air. So when people have it, when they breathe, when they emit,
Mhm.
fluids. So obviously, if, unless you're a hermit, say, can you come in contact with it? I'm, very aware that,
Yeah.
I could be coming in contact with it all the time, and I have, no idea. And this is, I had never heard of the term social distancing. Maybe that is a common term, and it's my first time with it,
No,
or
it is.
maybe it's actually a new term.
Yeah.
But just getting with the mask wearing and the social distancing, and adding this as a layer when you think about where you go, and and what you do.
And follow up to that question, what changed or what changes did you institute in your home after the seriousness was realized?
uh, stock up stock up on food, rice, water, basic, frozen foods. Stock up. Get plenty of hand sanitizers and cleaners, masks, PPE, personal protective equipment, so that when I do go out, I'm able to self sanitize my hands,
Right.
wear a mask, and don't touch stuff.
Right.
But we're talking about in the home. I stocked up. I washed my hands more than I did.
Mhm.
Uh, maybe you'd consider that the basic advice that
Yeah.
everyone seems to be
Yeah.
agreeing with.
Yeah. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking, what changes, and you just explained to me what changes. Um, let's go out of the house now. In your project, your KK project, um, is that do you meet in a certain office, or do you interact with members of the project on a one-to-one basis, or did you start to use social media to contact or to conduct your project business?
Well, the KK Project tells the story of an entanglement between a Karen. Karen is the phenomena of white woman that call the police on African American men for no reason, claiming their life is in danger.
Yeah,
So it
the
tells the
lady in
story
Park.
of an entanglement between a Karen and a black social change leadership student. And it's a situation where the student is being attacked and retaliated against for speaking up about an injustice.
Right.
Uh, First, the instructor um, called multiple police agencies and said that this student was a possible active campus shooter, and um, her life was in danger because a possible shooter was after her. And after obviously coming back unfounded, she then went to the university student conduct system and filed, what is now multiple proven false, erroneous reports and lies against the student. The student conduct director at the university called this, quote, total bullshit and racism, end quote. So after that came back unfounded, she went to the county court and she filed for a 2-year no stalking order of protection against the student. In her petition, she doesn't allege any stalking. She, in her petition, states things like, he told my boss I was disrespectful and he FOIA'd me. So this is a serious, vicious, retaliatory attack against a student by an instructor for speaking out about an injustice. So to get to the answer to your question, the student's been going to court because she filed with the county court. So during COVID, think about as crazy as this attack is. Um, During COVID, you look at everyone involved, from the judge, bailiff, courthouse workers. People put themselves in risk. So we're talking about May 2020, June 2020, July 2020, and August 2020. Right in the middle of the, like, maybe first wave of COVID, if that's what
Right.
that time frame turns out to be. And I was forced to go out and go in public and go to court and be present in court. So that's what's taken me out of the home with respects to this project, which is consists of partly an academic research paper,
Right.
but really it's the method of telling this story. And yes, everything else has been substantially via the Microsoft Teams, Zoom, over the phone, online,
Mhm.
and that's with everything. Which is something I personally am very I hope we get a chance to talk about that element of this,
Yeah.
the remote learning or working from
Yeah.
home. But to finish the answer to this question, with the KK project, being in court and having to go to court would be the specific of what took me, out of the home with respect to this. And you go into court, they have the temperature check they give you. You go through the X-ray machine, and I'd like to say that the DeKalb County sheriff's officers were very, very professional.
And do you know of any member of your family or any friend who contracted COVID?
I mean, I'd say yes, just because I think that statistically, I mean, we're not getting tested, right? My friends and family, are not being tested. I mean, no one's, but you can be asymptomatic, right? And you can have it and not know. So I presume that people have it. People obviously have it. That's why we're social distance, or we stay away, or we don't,
Mhm.
go the place. That's why CPS has said no. There's going to be no school in Chicago Public Schools this fall. It's going to be all remote learning because it's not safe. They just made that announcement. So the reason that they're doing these things is because it's out there. So I don't know anyone, because hey, someone said, hey, I went and got tested, and I have this. But I certainly think people that I know and people that I don't know have it.
Yeah.
But like I said, my friend, I don't know who's been tested or who hasn't been tested.
Right. Okay. How do you think? What's your opinion of the aftermath of COVID-19? How do you think society is going to stay the same? Is this going to be the new normal, or will things revert back to the pre-COVID?
That's a great question. I think that I'll speak for a lot of people that I know. I think a lot of people really underestimate. Um, hey, can you turn that down, please? Thank you. I think a lot of people really underestimate how things are going to be different. And when we first talked about this, I told you that I was open to everything from this is nothing to this is everything. But I always felt like there was going to be no school going back this fall. Let me be the first to tell you, I don't believe Major League Baseball is going to make it through. They're trying to play a season without being in a bubble. Football may start. I don't think they're going to finish. You can't do this without a bubble. Again, I said there's going to be no school. Industries are. I mean, it's a totally new platform today. The way that businesses were set up wasn't for this. The entire setup of infrastructure and investment and how the books balance, it was all set up based on getting the masses of people, and so now the infrastructure that exists is not designed to handle the way things need to be done now, let alone the fact that people don't have experience doing things in this new manner because it's all new.
Right.
There are so many, there's so many challenges, and I think that things are going to be catastrophically different, as in many ways they are right now, until we get a full vaccine. If we get a full vaccine. But short of that, which, again, I'm no medical expert, just, I don't see happening, say 3 years. I think that would be fast. I think 3 years would be fast. Certainly could happen before that, but to me, I think 3 years, would be fast. But we have not begun to see yet a lot of the effects of this, of businesses' finances, of families' finances, people that are losing their businesses, losing their jobs. How are people going to go back to work when the kids can't go to school?
Right.
Like, there's so many things You know, but like I said, for me, like I said, my very first thought was, well, yeah, I don't, you know, saying something could be big, and you know, maybe it's nothing. You know what? Maybe it's everything. So I don't think that I'm, you know, being caught off guard, and I'm just I've kind of been in a just, you know, just sit down mode. You know, slow down, stop, chill, relax. And that's not for me. That's not a challenging thing to do, right? But different things are more challenging for some than others. For me, stopping and, you know, sitting down, not challenging. I can do that. But you know, that's what needs to be done. So fortunately, what needs to be done isn't you know, a challenging thing for me, right? But you know, I'm just sitting down, relaxing, keeping my eyes open,
Mhm.
and you know, I think it's too early to even understand how big things are going to be, and a lot of people, you know, I think really think that things are the same, or oh, we're about to be right back to normal, and I think that that's a huge illusion.
Has the COVID affected your family finances? Have your finances been diminished, or are they the same?
Diminished. Like many industries have been ravaged. I work with the Chicago Cubs um, in their premium department. The Maker's Mark Barrel Room was one of their premium underground clubs that that opened up last year for the 2019 season. They have an entire new underground build inside of Wrigley Field. I got to tell you, first of all, shout out Levy, shout out Sophia Learokis, shout out the Barrel Room team, shout out the Cubs organization.
Right.
Let me tell you, this is the best job I've ever had. First of all, and now listen, I'm not, look, my sports are basketball and MMA, right? So I'm, you know, I'm not there as a diehard baseball guy. But I got to tell you, it is really a first class and an amazing. It's a world class operation. This is it's high level sports operations. So being there, working, I think it's very cool. Obviously, it's cool. It's fun. But I got to tell you, the business of it for me personally, um, just you know, phenomenal, absolutely unbelievable, beyond what you can conceptualize. I mean,
Right.
so yes, it was all of that and some. Absolutely amazing, financially, but also for for what it is, and that was completely taken away because obviously professional sports, other than the UFC, shout
Right.
out Dana White.
Mhm.
Uh, Dana White being the first individual to not be scared to take the arrows that he took to get out there and to show people how to solve problems and how to get things done. The UFC has put on 22 shows since the pandemic,
Right.
and you know, so shout out Dana White. That's been amazing. But in terms of the other sports, and even when they come back, there's no fans. And you know, I work in an element that deals with obviously all the fans that come into the ballpark. So even as sports comes back, you know, if you want to look at food and beverage industry, in sports and just, you know, out of sports, like many industries, it's been turned upside down. But that for me is a very specific way that COVID-19 impacted my family and my family's finances.
And let's get to the IT business. Um, the the fact that now, do you think that relying on social media? Hi there. Hello. Hi. And
This
what's
is
your name?
Renat.
What's your name? Okay. Okay. You can tell her she can look for this on YouTube at some point.
Yep. You got to go from kiss.
Okay. Good night. How do you think the world is going to be with the reliance on the internet and social media and Zoom and whatever else they have out there? How do you think this is going to play out going forward?
Well, like anything, with time, people get better, people get more comfortable, people get used to. So like anything, with time, there's ebbs and flows to everything. I had a professor, shout out Karen Wedby, political science professor this past year, Comms 481 at NIU. She's a professor. And, I think, for me, I've spent years working remotely. I work online. I mean, this is, it's as difficult as breathing for me to transition. I commuted, my second stint at NIU. So, I mean, even I just drove up to the campus and went to class and came right back. I was never even on campus because my beautiful princess that you just saw had to come and pick her up at 5:30. That was the latest daycare pickup time. So I'm going up to class and just coming back.
Right.
So, but a lot of people say, oh, it's not as engaging. I don't have a soft heart for that argument. Now, if you want to say from high school and younger, I can be more empathetic. But for a college student and up, I mean, I feel like whatever you want to do, any company that you want to work for, they want to know that you can solve problems. They want to know that you can change with the times. They want to know that when things go wrong, when there are big challenges, what type of person are you? How are you going to respond? How are you going to react? How are you going to change? Are you going to be able to figure things out and keep things going, or are you going to absolutely stop? Just like all the sports stopped, and a lot of them should have. People tried to stop Dana White and the UFC from putting on shows, calling, governors saying you guys shouldn't let them do this and all these things. There's so many different mindsets, but I believe that this should be something that you should approach, that a student should approach with positivity. And if it is challenging, if you're not, whether it's used to getting information via the computer or talking on the phone, or you feel like you move better outside, I mean, go outside. You can take your computer anywhere. You can go to the park. You can go to your car. If you feel like getting outside and moving around, you don't have to. There's no indoor places to go. But the point is, ingenuity, just like Uber brought to the transportation industry. Bring ingenuity to your life. Have that kind of mindset and adapt. And getting back to Karen Wedby. She's an amazing professor, and I used to tell her, professor, you can, and she's like, well, oh, Rod, online is just not the same, and it's not going to come through the same, and that's an idea. That's a self-limiting idea that a lot of people have. What I told her, I said, Professor Wedby, I said, you're the 95%. I said, whether in person or online, that's just the highway. That's the 5%. So, whether the 95% is here or there, but a lot of people don't have a confidence, and that's a lot because it's something new, and that's how people are weary of change and are not as confident in a lot of things. So I think that in my opinion is really one of the biggest challenges that has stopped people, or that slows people, or that slows the progress that they could have if they just embraced it. For me, this is normal every day, and I've seen the world kind of evolve and pick up with Zoom and conferencing and all of these things. But in time, people will become comfortable, just as before, and we're never going to go back to exactly how it was before. Now that companies see, hey, we can be just as productive without having everyone come into the office, without having to do these things. Which is a part of ingenuity and evolution. It's almost like a new technology to the methods in which we can operate. So that's just again, to recap, I think that people's mindset, and any young person that's listening to this, I would say, approach this with the right mindset. So that when you're talking to an employer, you can tell them, listen, let me tell you how challenging this semester was for me when I had to go through this change and that change and this change and that change. And of course, nothing's perfect. Every class can't do this, but this is how I handled it. This is how I adapted. These are my results. And you can expect that if you hire me, I will meet the challenges in our new company here with that same positivity, energy, and skill set, and we can win and succeed together. Utilize it for that. That's my advice, and that's been my personal experience.
It sounds very, very positive. Um, before we close, I would like, there's a picture over your left shoulder where
Yes.
somebody's holding a microphone.
Oh, yes.
Do you mind, can you pick up your computer and bring it up there and tell me a little bit about it? Or can you bring the picture down and so we can get it on tape?
I can get it to you, but yeah. No, you know what? This picture is stuck.
Okay, all right.
So
Why don't you, yeah. There you are. I see it now, yeah.
this is me, known as the authority on student leadership and success. You want me to keep it out there and keep talking, or you want to?
Rod?
Yeah.
Why don't you, now that I have it on the screen, you can sit back down because I can't hear you.
All right.
Now you can tell me about the picture.
So I was known as the authority on student leadership and success. One of the top-rated speakers and youth developers in America over the last decade and a half. Featured, live, whether from CNN, Anderson Cooper, ABC, NBC, Fox, substantial other media. Hundreds of universities and schools around America brought me out. I write curriculums, training curriculums, orientations, money skills programs, leadership programs. I authored a curriculum called Leadership Jitsu. Leadership Jitsu. Shout out to the Gracie brothers. We actually partnered with Jorge and Gracie, the creator of the UFC, when we launched Leadership Jitsu. But it's the best set of techniques to help develop any young person to be best prepared to compete against the best candidates for the best positions and opportunities in America and beyond. Everyone starts as a white belt, and you can grow to blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. Black belts will be ready to compete against anybody in the world for any position. And the state of Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice, they selected Leadership Jitsu as pedagogy to help reduce youth recidivism. And I actually modified the techniques to be applicable to young black and brown males who were incarcerated, set for release. Not incarcerated for anything serious. Serious meaning, shooting, sexual assaults, things of that sort. And with amazing results. So I say that to say that I've done a substantial amount of work nationally in that area. And my website, eydnfp.com, Effective Youth Development, has a lot of the information. So this particular clip, I was speaking on NBC. We did an in-studio, and then they were out live at an event. This event was in Rockford, a fundraiser for Martin Luther King annual scholarship breakfast and brunch, where youth in Winnebago County, Cook County, DeKalb County are given scholarships. They participate in the oratorical competition. There's a major community breakfast where all of the from the mayor, the fire chief commissioner, all the officials participate. This particular event is at Rockford University, and there may be about 175 attendees at this breakfast. And like I said, we did it in studio, and then here the media was speaking to me after the event, in which actually one of the local NBC anchors emceed the event as well. So that's what this particular picture is from.
Okay, I just thought looked very dignified up there. I thought there was a good story behind it, and obviously there is.
And this is the beautiful Princess Renee that you're just privileged to see live and in person.
Yes.
Her in black and white.
Very nice family. Rod, I think we've covered everything, unless there's something that you want to add or want to talk about. If after we close, you think of something else that you wanted to include, just call me and I'll just make a second tape. But
okay, I'll tell you what. Let me marinate on that, so I'm not babbling or rambling. Let me marinate on that, and I'll follow up and I'll say, hey, we're good, or hey, I got 2, 3, 4 more things I'd love to include, and
not a problem.
Give me a couple days.
That's not a problem.
I'll figure that out.
Well, I want to thank you. I hope I didn't keep you up. I know your kids got to go to bed.
We're We're making history.
You're making history. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Very well.
Good night.
Take care.